For those who live in Navy Yard, did you know you can order Walters online for pickup? Visit waltersdc.com, click on menus, and then push the order online button so it's ready when you get there to take back home with you.
At RX Bar, they believe in simple nutrition without the BS. That's why they said no to artificial ingredients and yes to deliver intentional, transparent nutrition. Try their original 12-gram protein bar, the nut butter and oat bar, or minis. RX Bar, the proud sponsor of No BS. Use code RXBAR on rxbar.com for 25% off. Subject to full terms and conditions and to change. Valid until September 30, 2025, and may not be combined with other offers. See rxbar.com for full details and limitations.
Rutledge works from the stretch, first base side of the slab. And he delivers a swing and a drive in the air to right center field. Hit well. Young going back. Warning track at the wall. And can't get it. It is gone. A home run for Wilson Contreras. And it's now the Cardinals 8 and the Nationals nothing.
Here's the 1-1. Chopping ground ball to third. It's grabbed by Arenado. Fall away throw to second for one. A rifle throw to first. Abrams is not running hard and he's out. Abrams slowed up going into the bag, and that's a double play. I didn't think there was a chance it would be a double play.
I think Abrams thought the out at second was the third out.
That's a good point. He stopped running. He slowed down anyway.
Yeah, I think he thought the out at second was out number 3.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who was at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. We on Thursday night had yet another blowout result in a Nationals game. We've had a lot of blowout results in Nationals games lately, but this time the result was a Nats loss. They off their 8-2 win at the St. Louis Cardinals on Wednesday night, lost at the Cardinals 8-1 on Thursday night to lose 2 out of 3 games in the series. The Nats now 38-55 with a run differential of -89, second worst run differential in the National League. It's good to have you with us. So you on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate this podcast and write reviews. 5-star ratings are very much appreciated. Positive reviews are very much appreciated. They help us out a lot. Thank you very much for doing them. So we on Thursday night had some big-time sloppiness by the Nats, including by shortstop C.J. Abrams. We'll get to that. But we on Thursday night also had a man who has been a Nats killer over the years, furthering that reputation. Cardinals starting pitcher Miles Mikolas. He tossed 5 2/3 scoreless innings with 6 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He threw 71 pitches, 50 strikes versus a mere 21 balls. Mark, Miles Mikolas against the rest of MLB really hasn't been that good in recent years. But Miles Mikolas against the Nats, for whatever reasons, is a Cy Young candidate, and we saw that on Thursday night.
Oh, here are the down and dirty numbers, Al, and they are not pretty. This is since 2023, so now 3 seasons worth. Against the Nationals, Miles Mikolas has made 6 starts. He is 3-1 with a 1.62 ERA and a 0.930 whip. Absolutely dominant. And most of those starts, it's very few pitches thrown, 10 to 12 pitches thrown per inning, a ton of quick outs. You say, well, he must be a pretty good pitcher then, right? No, not even close to that. In 79 starts against everybody else in baseball since 2023, Miles Mikolas is 21-29 with a 5.28 ERA and 1.324 whip. He has completely befuddled the Nationals for a while now. Now you go back to the 2019 playoffs, they did great against him, but fortunately this is not the same team anymore as that one. And I wish I could say I'm surprised, but I'm not, because he is exactly the kind of pitcher that we have seen them struggle with. Doesn't throw the ball that hard, but throws a ton of different pitches, a lot of stuff that moves, a lot of stuff down in the zone, and he got them to do nothing but pound the ball on the ground or miss it altogether. I don't think I've ever seen a stretch like this before. There's a stretch of 15 batters that the Nats sent to the plate during this game against Mikolas. 13 of those 15 batters either struck out, grounded out to the first baseman, or grounded out to the pitcher. That's it. The Cardinals seriously could have just played with 3 guys in the field, the pitcher, the catcher, and the first baseman, and they wouldn't have had a problem for an extended stretch of this game. I don't even know what to make of that, except to say the at-bats against him completely unproductive. The adjustments against him, non-existent. It's pretty tiring to see that kind of performance consistently, not against a frontline pitcher who does this to everybody, but against a guy who only does it to the Nationals.
It was a feeble offensive performance. 1 run, 4 hits, which were a double and 3 singles. The Nats did work 3 walks, but the Nats went 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. The double was by C.J. Abrams. He is the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter. Went 1 for 4 with a double. But what stood out with Abrams as much as anything in this game was this. Top of the 8th, he grounds into a 5-6-3 double play for the final 2 outs. And he, on the play, slows up, thinking that the out at second base was the 3rd out. The out at second base was not the 3rd out. And he was thrown out at first base because he mistakenly slowed down. He probably would have beaten the throw had he continued to run hard. He did not continue to run hard. And this was an ugly, off-putting moment. Bob Carpenter on Mason flat out said that what Abrams did was embarrassing. Bob doesn't often talk like that. He talked like that in this spot. Now, Abrams, to his credit, during his post-game session with reporters, admitted that he needs to be more aware. Quote, "I got to be more aware than that," end quote. So good on him for that. And Abrams is having a good season. Abrams, for this regular season, as of games through Wednesday, believe it or not, was number 9 in the majors in offensive wins above replacement per Baseball Reference, 3.7. Nats left fielder James Wood was number 8 at 3.8. So Abrams, offensively speaking, is actually having a really good season. But defensively, he has struggled, and he had a defensive boo-boo in this game. We'll get to that. And Mark, this moment on the base pass was really rough and was a very poor look for Abrams.
100%, especially at the end of a game like this, at the end of a series like this, in a week like this. It really did not come over well. Not that it would ever come across well when you forget how many outs there are in the inning. Now, he took responsibility for it. As he said to us, the previous batter, Jacob Young, almost hit into a double play himself, and the call got overturned. And CJ said that in his mind, he just kind of forgot about the overturned part about it and thought there were already 2 outs. Well, clearly there weren't. So he pointed out the mistake, apologized for it. Miguel Cairo afterwards said the same thing, that CJ immediately went to him and apologized for it. I also saw Miguel Cairo walk up to CJ Abrams at his locker after the game's over, once we were in there, and have a short conversation with him. I couldn't tell you what exactly was said, but there was another conversation and kind of a pat on the back as well. So, Miguel Cairo's approach to that was to say he apologized. At least he knew what he did. I respect that. We're on the same page here. They're playing hard. I'm always going to respect that. They've been battling every day. The good thing is he came to me and told me what he did. We learned from our mistakes, and it's good that he recognized that. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, especially when the player doesn't have to be told, that he immediately, acknowledges and apologizes for it. But I think it's going to be interesting to see over these final 2.5 months. How does Miguel Cairo handle players when they do make mental mistakes, when they have repeatable mistakes? Because I think a fair criticism of Davey Martinez was that when things would happen, while he wouldn't be happy with them and he would criticize guys for it, there rarely was real ramifications. He didn't bench a guy for lack of hustle or that kind of thing, or, sit him the next day or publicly really call him out like that. And that was his style, and that's fine. We'll see if Miguel Cairo has a different approach. Based on his answer to this one, it feels like the same kind of approach that Davey Martinez would have had. You just worry that, and I'm not just talking about CJ Abrams, but anybody on the team, do they feel like there is accountability, like there are repercussions for continued sloppy mistakes? Everybody's going to have a mistake now and again, but when it happens continuously, are there ramifications for it? I think that's something to watch for the rest of the year and to see how that kind of thing is handled.
Well, from what we have observed from Miguel Cairo so far, he certainly seems to be like Davey Martinez in many ways. And so, I think the approach that we got used to from Davey when it comes to this kind of thing, we're probably going to be getting from Miguel Cairo. I am sympathetic to Cairo, or to any manager in this regard. If the player immediately admits to the mistake and apologizes for the mistake, what are you supposed to do? Humiliate him? Are you supposed to berate him in front of his teammates in the dugout? I think it's one thing if the guy pretends like there's nothing wrong and he did nothing wrong. Then I think in that spot, you can maybe get harsh. But if the guy owns it, I don't know, like, what are you supposed to do exactly? So I'm not that upset with Miguel Cairo for not getting that upset with C.J. Abrams. But, this does speak to an issue with the Nats, which has been this sloppiness, this lack of attention to detail on the base paths in the field. Like, this has been a thing for a while. And you see a moment like that on Thursday night. And, it just was not particularly good. Hey, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation. The humidity is rather thick. You've got the AC running on blast, the fans on, and the shades closed, but the heat still seems to be seeping into your home. That is, until you replace your old, drafty windows with energy-efficient, top-quality windows from Window Nation. And right now, you can get 50% off all window styles plus 0 interest for 5 years. You heard that right. With Window Nation, you won't pay any interest until 2030. Call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. Also, know this, Window Nation will get the job done in a day or less. Window Nation's installation crews have over a decade of experience, so you can feel comfortable knowing that your windows are installed right the first time. Don't procrastinate another day. Save yourself another month of living in discomfort. Don't miss Window Nation's biggest deal of the year, 50% off all window styles now through July 31st. And remember, that comes with 0 interest until 2030. 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. That's 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. And tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
The McDonald's snack wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch snack wrap. Spicy snack wrap. You broke the internet for a snack. Snack wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Soroka delivers, swing, line drive, left center field, going to fall into base hit. Young to chase it down in left center. Donovan rounding third, he'll score. The throw will come into second base, holding Burleson at first. With a single to left center, his second run batted in of the night. So the wild pitch after the single proves costly as Burleson drives home Donovan. It's the Cardinals 2 and the Nationals nothing.
So the Nats starting pitcher in this 8-1 loss at the Cardinals on Thursday night was Michael Soroka. He lasted for just 4 innings. He allowed 2 runs in 4 innings. He gave up 4 hits, which were a double and 3 singles. He issued 2 walks and 2 wild pitches. He recorded 4 strikeouts. He, over his mere 4 innings, threw 91 pitches, 57 strikes, 34 balls. We have seen Soroka look pretty good, even when he gives up some runs. This was not a game in which he looked pretty good, really, in any way.
No, other than, I guess, the fact that he only gave up 2 runs is a little bit of a saving grace. He did kind of limit the damage, but my God, the pitch count was just off the charts. Ridiculous. And I mean, they fouled off 22 of his 91 pitches in 4 innings. So that's part of it. And you maybe give Cardinals hitters some credit for that. But as Soroka himself said, there were way too many uncompetitive pitches coming out of his hand. And I think that's what he was most frustrated by. He felt like he executed a lot of the time, but he couldn't put them away. And when you prolong at bats like that, let them drag it out, you're behind the 8 ball all along. I mean, that was the case for him right from the start in the first inning. You kind of knew it was going to be a short night for him. Maybe not quite that short, but it just kind of leaves us once again wondering, what is Mike Soroka really? The peripherals still suggest that he has pitched kind of well, and just even the eye test suggests that he's pitched kind of well. His whip is 1.158. That's excellent. And yet the ERA is 5.35. And he doesn't go deep in games, as we've realized. I'm not really sure what to make of him. There's part of me that says, keep giving him a shot because he's not that far away from it all clicking and you may actually have something here. And then part of me says, no, this might just be who he is. And while there's good stuff and he has his moments, he really is not able to consistently put it together, keep it going all the way through a start, and then come back and do it again 5 days later. So, they've got 3 weeks until the trade deadline. I think Mike DeBartolo is going to have some very interesting questions and have to listen to what the offers are for him. I don't know what the offers are going to be for him, but right now I think you probably look at what you can get for him. I'm not sure that he's done enough to really solidify his place if the idea is to think about giving him an extension, to bringing him back. I just don't know that he's shown enough to merit that right now.
He hasn't. And, it's a little tricky with him from an age perspective. This is only his age 27 season. He's younger than I think most people might think. He's been around for a long time. His rookie season of 2019, in which he gained so much acclaim, it was only his age 21 season when he was with the Atlanta Braves. So, you could make the case of, hey, he's young enough to where maybe he is someone who you can cultivate to a degree. But on the other hand, he has been around for a while. He's dealt with injury. And like you were just saying, you do get the sense like maybe this is just who he is. And like you can only sing the praises for the peripheral so much. I mean, at some point, he does need to have some really good outings from a run prevention standpoint. He has not done that. At some point, he needs to stack together 1 run in 6 innings, 2 run in 7 innings, that kind of a thing. He hasn't done that at all this year. It's always been these but starts, and that only goes so far. So, yeah, and lasting for just 4 innings on Thursday night. And the Nats bullpen in this 8-1 loss at the Cardinals on Thursday night got ripped. 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 6 runs in 4 innings. Andrew Chafin tossed a perfect bottom of the 5th, but Mason Thompson officially allowed 5 runs in a third of an inning. He had the Cardinals 5-run 6th. Faced 6 batters, but got just 1 out. He allowed each of the first 5 batters in the bottom of the 6th to reach base. He gave up a double and 3 singles and issued a walk. Now, Thompson was plagued by some sloppy defense, including shortstop C.J. Abrams whiffing on a grounder off the bat of Joel Pozo on a bases-loaded RBI single into left field on an 0-2 pitch for a 4-0 Cardinals lead. Jackson Rutledge officially allowed 1 run in 1 2/3 innings with 3 strikeouts, but Rutledge really struggled. He and the Cardinals 5-run 6 gave up a 2-out full count opposite field RBI double by Mason Wynn into right field for a 7-0 Cardinals lead. And Rutledge in the bottom of the 7th gave up a leadoff opposite field home run by Wilson Contreras to right center for an 8-0 Cardinals lead. Kyle Finnegan did toss a perfect bottom of the 8th. So Chafin and Finnegan were good, but Thompson and Rutledge not good. And that was rough to watch with Mason Thompson fresh off coming back from Tommy John. That was not particularly encouraging.
Yeah, the first 2 outings by him, pretty good, solid, nothing spectacular, but it was good to see him healthy and out there and putting up zeros. And then this one, not even close to that. Now, 2 plays in the field behind him. You mentioned the C.J. Abrams one. Nathaniel Lowe also had another one of these. It's not an error, but it's a sharp grounder that is not hit that far from him that you'd love to see him at minimum knock it down or even scoop it and actually make the play. And then, and I never really asked about this, and it was a weird moment, but Thompson gets a grounder to first, and Lowe turns to throw to second, seemingly in search of a 3-6-1 double play, except Mason Thompson is backing up between third and home. Maybe he thought the ball was getting through. Maybe he's not thinking about the fact that he might have to cover first on that play, but it wound up being Luis Garcia all the way from second running around, and it was too late to even try to turn it. I'm not entirely sure what happened on that play, but it was another one that just looked sloppy and a potential double play, perhaps, that wasn't. And there's been so many of these kinds of moments for the Nationals on the infield. They're not errors, but they're plays not made. They're slow turns of double plays, not getting to a ball that you should be able to get to, not being in the right position. It's really been across the board around the infield, and that has a domino effect. It has hurt the pitching staff. It has hurt the team overall. It's helped allow some of these games that were still close to turn into routes. And we've seen this happen a lot. These big innings, yes, it's bad relief pitching, but the defense has not been doing them any favors either.
You also had in that 5-run 6 a ground rule double by Lars Nootbaar, and that was a play. It was an interesting play to me with the right fielder Dalen Lyle, because he hustled to try to make the catch, and he ended up just missing the ball in an attempted running backhanded catch. Now, he covered a decent amount of ground to get to that point. It did not look like he got the greatest jump. So I don't know if you classify that as bad defense or just a good effort by Lyle. But on first glance, that was another play that you looked at and you said, boy, you wonder if another outfielder might have made that catch. Not an easy play at all, but whenever you see an outfielder barely miss making a catch, especially on a play in which he doesn't dive, I think you always question, okay, what was the route efficiency on that play? What kind of a jump did he get off to? Is that a play that the outfielder should have made?
Yeah, and I think it all falls into this category of these plays not made. And it's so hard to quantify this. And this is why defensive metrics and stats are so tough to get a good handle on and to be fully accurate. It's not just about errors. It's not just about turning this double play or making that play or what the percentage chance of this or that were. The cumulative effect of plays that could be made but are not made for one reason or another, it adds up. And this team, I think for several years now, it has really added up. Now, the outfield defense, as we've discussed, has been a lot better than the infield defense. But I think Lyle, while he's made some spectacular plays, has had a little more trouble, I think, than the others. And while we're on the subject, Dylan Cruz is starting to throw and do some defensive drills in the outfield. I was watching him do that before the game today. He's hitting in the cage, so he's not quite there yet. But I think we're getting closer to that point that we can start talking about his return. And as we've discussed, there are some interesting decisions to make for now Mike DiBartolo about who goes down, who's in the lineup, and who's playing which positions in the outfield.
By the way, regarding team defense, this never came up during the Nats series against the Boston Red Sox last week, and a few other things happened during that series. The Red Sox, though, one of the worst teams in the majors this season in terms of errors, one of the best teams in the majors this season in terms of defensive runs saved, like top 10 in defensive runs saved and bottom 5th, bottom 6 of MLB in errors. And so it is instructive of you cannot go by errors. Personally, I think you just should ignore errors and just focus on the other stuff, just because I think the other stuff can be more telling. The Nats don't fare well in the other stuff, as we have talked about many times.
Tim Shover's here to tell you about Babbel. Did you know that the Nats are on the Spanish radio airwaves for the second consecutive season?
Ildemar, un bate soltísimo. La bola se va. Atrás se da dinero, atrás. Se fue la fruta. Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo. Cuadrangular para los nacionales que ahora ganan 4 carreras por 3.
If you want to know what Luciano and Gustavo are saying on the broadcast on calls such as this one, then check out Babbel. And here's their special offer for Nats Chat listeners. 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/natschat. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/natschat. That's spelled BABBEL.com/natschat. Babbel.com/natschat. Rules and restrictions may apply.
The McDonald's snack wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch snack wrap. Spicy snack wrap. You broke the internet for a snack. Snack wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
He's leaned on that changeup tonight. Will he do it again? 0-2. Pulled, strike 3. Perfect pitch from Anderson. Another base runner and another punch out to end an inning.
The Nats have one series here until the All-Star break, a 3-game set at the Milwaukee Brewers this weekend. Game 1 Friday night at 8:10. Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 2 Saturday afternoon at 4:10. Shinosuke Ogasawara will be the Nats starting pitcher. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 2:10. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. And also this weekend, is the 2025 MLB Draft, in which our Nats have the number 1 overall pick. The draft is happening over 2 days. Sunday and Monday is getting going on Sunday evening, is taking place at the Coca-Cola Roxy in Georgia. It's an interesting draft from this perspective. The mocks for a while have kind of been all over the place in terms of what the Nats will do with that number 1 overall pick. There are a number of names that have come up for a while. Ethan Holiday, the high school infielder out of Oklahoma, was coming up the most, it felt like. Now it feels like the LSU starting pitcher Cade Anderson is coming up the most in terms of who the Nats might take with that number 1 overall pick. But there are other names to be aware of. A starting pitcher out of the University of Tennessee, Liam Doyle. That name is out there. Starting pitcher out of a high school in California, Seth Hernandez. That name is out there. There is a pitcher out of Florida State, Jamie Arnold. That name is out there, and a bunch of others as well. So far from, a definite lock in terms of who will be that number 1 overall pick. In your mind, is there a favorite? Is there a group of favorites for the Nats with that number 1 overall pick? Or do you think that this is the number 1 overall pick that could go in a lot of different directions for the Nats?
Well, let's point this out. It may be obvious, but for those who maybe haven't watched as closely, this is the 3rd time the Nationals have held the number 1 pick in their history. The first 2 times, it could not have been more obvious going in who they were going to draft. Steven Strasburg in 2009, Bryce Harper in 2010. There was no drama at all with that. That is not the case this year. Even if they have decided, and I don't know the answer to that question as we record this on Thursday night, if they have decided, there's been a bit of a change in the leadership of the organization, which may have something to do with all this as well. But even if they have decided, I know for a fact that these discussions down to the wire in that draft room have been very different than those previous times, because there have been, I believe, at least 5 or 6 guys who have been getting serious consideration. Now, that doesn't mean that they go into the weekend thinking any one of them could be the pick. I feel like there are 2 that stand out from the rest, and that's Ethan Holiday and then Cade Anderson, the left-hander from LSU. I think most of the draft prognosticators out there and experts feel the same way, that those are the 2 most likely, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's guaranteed to be one of them. For our purposes right now, let's discuss those 2 and the pros and cons there. Cade Anderson, really polished college pitcher, left-hander, really showed himself well in the College World Series on a big stage. We know LSU produces really good players and guys who reach the big leagues very quickly. If you're looking for a polished, well-rounded pitcher who could be in the big leagues within a year or 2 tops, it obviously would make a lot of sense to draft a kid like him. The one thing that I've heard about him, however, is that while he looks close to a big league pitcher already, he doesn't necessarily profile as a true number 1 or maybe even number 2 starter. And so if you've got the number 1 pick in the draft, are you going to go for that kind of safe pick in a way that says, this guy's going to be a big league pitcher and probably a decent one, but he may not be a number 1. He may not be an ace. We've got the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Are you going to use it on somebody who might wind up as, say, our number 3 starter for years to come? So I think that's the concern there. On Ethan Holiday, clearly the bloodlines are outstanding. His brother Jackson goes number 1 a couple of years ago to the Orioles. His father, Matt, is a legendary player for the Rockies and the Cardinals and others. He's been groomed for years to be this guy. He, as a hitter, is more like Matt than Jackson, more of a power hitter than maybe a singles or on base kind of guy, but the power is supposed to be legitimate. He may or may not be able to stick at shortstop. He may ultimately have to go to third base, or who knows, even a corner outfield position. But that, to me, is of less concern. The idea is he's going to be a big-time big leaguer because of his bat more than anything. Now, he's in high school, so he's 18 years old, and you just never know for sure how that's going to go. We saw Jackson Holiday called up pretty quickly, all things considered, for a high school player, and he struggled that first year. Nowadays, he looks a lot better, and I don't know if the Orioles are regretting that decision at all. I think they feel like he's the guy. So if you're the Nationals, you can't just think about who's going to help you the most right now or in the short term, but who is the best player overall. If you have the number 1 pick, to me, you've got to pick the guy that you are fairly confident is going to be a good player in the long run and not take a chance on someone. And to me, from what I understand, I feel like Holiday is the safer bet in that regard. But we don't know for sure what they're all thinking. And I do think they are seriously considering both, if not even a couple of the other guys in the mix.
Well, I would just say a few things. Number one, the current state of the Nats should in no way impact what they do with this pick. You go with the guy who, like you said, you think is going to be the best player, period, whether it's in a year or in 3 years. So I think that's number one. Number two, we know how these drafts are. There will be someone taken, beyond the top 10 who will end up being really good. And this is where the onus just becomes so grand on the Nats front office. And that is, you need to figure out as best you can who that guy will be. And don't just get sucked into the conventional thinking of Ethan Holiday, Cade Anderson. Like, if there's someone here who you look at and you think might be the guy, even if he's not coming up as often as Holiday and Anderson, I think you have to be open to doing that. You cannot miss on any more picks. Like there is an urgency here, I feel like, with the Nats in these drafts. They've got to nail not just this pick, but other picks in this draft. Like, the number one overall pick is going to get the bulk of the attention, but this team has got to start hitting on picks. And I think there's just such importance on this draft. So I hope that there is an open-mindedness here to what's out there. But no doubt, like, the upside is what is key. And I think the other thing that's kind of odd here is you have a guy who's auditioning for the full-time general manager role in Mike DiBartolo. We're not going to know the true outcome of this draft for years, right? So whatever happens with that general manager role, the determination on it is going to be made without knowing truly whether he did a good job in this 2025 MLB draft. So I wonder if the evaluation of him pertaining to the draft will be more about the process and how he presided over the draft as opposed to the results, because we're just not going to know those results for a really long time.
Right. And I think the really fascinating question, and hopefully they give us a window into how this all went when we talk to them on Sunday night. We know that Mike Rizzo had a lot of influence in the draft room because of his background as a scout. And so when he talked in that room with those guys, his opinion carried a lot of weight. And even if there would be disagreements at times, I think it was fair to say that if Mike Rizzo believes in this guy, that's probably worth at least considering. Nothing against Mike DiBartolo, but that's just not his background. So would he be the type to go in, and if Danny Haas and Brad Ciolek and Reed Dunn, their top scouts, are saying, we want Ethan Holiday, and Mike DiBartolo says, no, I want Cade Anderson, how does that go? I would think, just from knowing DiBartolo a little bit, that in this case, he probably defers to the scouts a little more, but I don't know that for a fact. And we don't know how he would handle the kind of situation where he's in charge, because it's the first time that he's been in charge. One other point about that, too, I would say, and he sort of raised this possibility, or at least the notion of this when we interviewed him the other day. The other thing to consider here is the draft pool and how much money they have to spend. Every team has a designated amount that they're allowed to spend across the entire draft. He raised, or at least brought up, the idea or the point of, it can sometimes make sense to draft somebody in the first round who costs you a little bit less in order to have more money to spend on a guy in a later round. And the idea would be a first round talent who might fall because he's threatening to go to college or he's demanding a higher signing bonus, and so teams pass on him. Well, if you spend less on your number one pick, you could maybe overpay beyond the slot value for a second or third rounder who actually is a first round talent. And we've seen them do things like that in the past. That, to me, is more where he might get involved as an analytics guy, as a guy who worked in finance before coming into baseball. He's thinking in those kind of terms, not just about who the best player is, but how can we maximize what we get out of this entire draft. So I'll be interested to see if that plays any role in it at all. The last point, as you mentioned, who some of the other candidates are, I think it's worth pointing out Seth Hernandez, the high school right-hander from California. By all accounts, he's got the best stuff and maybe the highest ceiling of anyone, certainly among the pitchers. There's this stigma, though, that no high school right-hander has ever been drafted number one ever in the history of the draft. There's so many things that can go wrong, we know, with high school pitchers. And yet, lefties, it hasn't been the case. It's been about righties. Would they completely break the mold and do that and draft a guy who clearly's got the stuff, maybe better than anybody else in the mix, but would be so high risk just given the nature of his age and where he's coming from? I don't know that you're going to be that bold and that be that dramatic on, in the very first pick of the draft, but it is something to keep in the back of your mind. If you're just not sure about the rest of them and there's no clear-cut number one, that could be a way to go.
There is something to be said for swinging for the fences and for just taking the guy with the highest upside. But there's no doubt pitchers, period, are risky. High school pitchers, the risk goes to the moon in terms of what you're dealing with there. Going to be so interesting to see what the Nats do with that number one overall pick come Sunday evening. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. Hit us up on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website you can check out too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
With the first selection in the 2009 first-year player draft, the Washington Nationals select Steven Strasburg, right-handed pitcher, San Diego State University, San Diego, California. The Seattle Mariners are now on the clock.
The McDonald's snack wrap is back. You brought it back. Ranch snack wrap. Spicy snack wrap. You broke the internet. For a snack. Snack wrap is back. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.